John, you open the book Battling for the Soul of Education with the question, what kind of education for what kind of world? Why do you open the book asking that question?
Because deep down, education is fraught with, is hedged around with, if you like, whichever word you want to express, by value systems. What are we trying to do with children? Now, it's interesting, in the last 10 years, the opinion of politicians has been that actually education is important because it's, quote, frontline investment in the economic society. But people like myself who trained as teachers a long time ago and have read a lot about it, remember that actually things have changed dramatically. I have here a copy of a quotation from a book written in 1952. It's about the all-round person. And it goes as follows. Parents feel that years spent by their children in school, almost irrespective of the subjects, are going to be of value. And here was the criticism they made in 1952. In our concentration on academic performance, we lose sight of our main purpose of educating human personality. Now, there's a world of a difference between what was said in 1952 and what's being said now. What was said then was the prime task of education is to help children master themselves as individuals, understand their role in society, and in the process of doing that, use their brains well. A couple of years later, another quote, and this is all from my notes at university in the 60s, all considerations of the curriculum, they said, should consider how best to use subjects for the purpose of education, rather than regarding education as the byproduct of the efficient teaching of subjects. Now, those are absolutely fundamental questions. Now, the whole thing has come up again this week and over the past weeks, government wanting to introduce new levels of appreciation of technology as low as the primary school. Actually, as low as 5- and 6-year-olds. Can they program effectively? Can they understand what computers can do? Yes, I'm not denying that. I was the person who put in the first ever fully computerized classroom into an English high school. But actually putting that in, as I've said on earlier interviews, it wasn't a question of actually just technological achievement. It was, does that enable children to think straight? And think straight not just about technological issues, but about the biggest issues of life. So yes, what kind of education for what kind of world? Now, yesterday, today, I'm sure tomorrow, the newspapers are full of, has the world really woken up to the real implications of global warming? And the issue highlighted in the paper yesterday was, we're going to run out of good quality coffee. Another issue this morning was much more serious. Large parts of the world are just not going to be able to sustain themselves with the quality of food which will actually sustain life. And the headlines of this morning, so it's very coming up to date, the old-fashioned advice about 5 pieces of fruit and veg a day is not good enough. It should be 7 pieces of fruit and veg a day. Why? Because actually, as people, we're not living as healthily as we should be living. So therefore we go back to what exactly are we educating people for? Are we educating them to become cogs in a machine? Or are we educating them to the stage at which they can think straight about a whole variety of totally complex situations? And the final quote that I pulled out from all those years ago was a quote from 1959. The years in the 6th form are crucial years in which the foundation of a sound social and moral judgment can be laid. And of course, in Battling for the Soul, there's a lot about democracy. And democracy only really works effectively if people are sufficiently knowledgeable, insightful, if you like, educated, to be able to understand why they need to make decisions on a number of really complex issues. And so that paper does start with the right thing. What kind of education will enable people to perform in the sort of world which society actually wants to believe is a good society?